50% of all workplace complaints relate to sexual harassment. It doesn't matter if you're new to the corporate world or a tenured professional, that's a disheartening statistic. Even so, it's generalized. If you look at the trends on a state level, things look even worse though. In the state of California alone, sexual harassment incidents are 5% higher among men and 10% higher among women in comparison to national averages. In other words, the state that brought forth and led the Me Too movement is still running rampant with toxic work environments. That's a discouraging, albeit ironic reality. I'm not trying to insinuate that working at or owning an organization in California guarantees that sexual harassment exists there. Instead, I'm providing some color on the reason why the state government of California instituted a sexual harassment training mandate on businesses that operate within it. Of course, if you're watching this video, you likely know that sexual harassment training is a requirement for the state of California. You want to know what the actual requirements are though. Hi everyone, I'm Matt from eTactics, and today I'm going to give you the list of present-day California sexual harassment training requirements. Before we get started though, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the button below. While you're down there, hit that alert bell icon next to it as well, so when we post new helpful content, you get notified. Before I start talking about what's required in California in the present day with regard to sexual harassment training, I need to go over a brief history about its requirements that have led us to this point, and it all started back in 2004 with the passing of California Assembly Bill 1825. AB 1825 mandated that places with 50 or more employees have their team take sexual harassment prevention training. Organizations needed to provide 2 hours of training to all supervisory employees every 2 years. Now, over the course of time, 4 additional California bills added and proposed changes to the current day sexual harassment training requirement. AB 2053, FEHA, updates in 2016, SB 396, and SB 1343. When you first started watching this video, you probably didn't realize what you were getting yourself into. You see, it's without a doubt that sexual harassment training is a requirement for organizations that operate in the state of California. However, it gets much more complicated once you start diving into the requirements itself, especially those related to time, organizational role, and content. That's why we had to go over the timeline before diving into the present day requirement. Anyway, now that we got through it, it's time to list all the sexual harassment training requirements for California in the modern day. I do want to preface this that I'm not a lawyer and this is not legal advice, this is merely an analysis. Your sexual harassment training in California needs to include the legal definition of sexual harassment provided by both California FEHA and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, provide guidance regarding laws and state statutory provisions concerning the prohibition of sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliation, include examples that instruct employees on abusive conduct that's considered harassment, include content on gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. Workforce supervisors' obligations to report abusive conduct and discrimination at work. A description of the reporting process to serve as remedies available to workforce victims of sexual harassment. Information and guidance on what supervisors should do if they're accused. Provide this sexual harassment training to supervisors and non-supervisory roles every 2 years. Training must last 2 hours for supervisors and 1 hour for non-supervisors. The training must include interactive components to ensure participants remain engaged and retain the material. Organizations must maintain a record of participants for a minimum of 2 years. It must discuss the strategies that constitute an effective anti-sexual harassment policy. And finally, display of California's DFEH transgender rights poster in visible areas of the actual organization. The statistics I provided in the introduction of this video painted a pretty grim picture for California. But the state remains at the forefront of battling sexual harassment. The truth of the matter is, there was a lot of success that came out of the Me Too movement that originated in the state. Since then, many other states now require organizations to sit through sexual harassment training and actually retain the information. You see, California has had sexual harassment training as a requirement since 2004. Since then, the state continues to make adjustments to what is required. In other words, the state isn't planning on giving up the fight on sexual harassment in the workplace anytime soon. So if you're an organization that's headquartered in California, you have some obligations that you need to hold. You need to make sure that your sexual harassment training meets every single requirement that I've listed in this video. If you'd like to learn more about sexual harassment requirements in the state of California and how to actually administer the training, reach out to eTactics. You already made this far into the video, so you might as well like it, share it, and comment below. Well, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.